Good evening. Welcome to the April 1st, no April Fool's jokes here, edition of the Newberg City Council. At this point, I call this meeting to order. Could we have the roll call, please?
Yes. Counselor McBride,
Here.
Counselor Kilberg,
Here.
Counselor Olson,
Here.
Counselor Wheatley, here, Counselor Carmen,
Here.
Counselor Yarnell Holloman,
Here.
and Mayor Rosacker.
Here. All right, today we're gonna change the format up just a little bit. We have a lot of veterans here, and at this point, before we participate in the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like you folks to all come forward. Right up here would be great. So at this point, if everybody would stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. On March 29th, 1973, American troops began to be withdrawn from combat in the Vietnam War. Whereas the Vietnam War was from 1961 to 1975 and involved North Vietnam and the Viet Cong in conflict with the United States and South Vietnam. And whereas in 1965, there were 80,000 United States troops in Vietnam, by 1969, a peak of approximately 543,000 troops were reached. And whereas more than 58,000 individuals, including 801 Oregonians and 8 individuals with Newberg ties, made the ultimate sacrifice in Vietnam. More than 300,000 were wounded in combat or missing in action. And whereas thousands of brave Americans served our country in this conflict with courage, honor, and valor, and whereas upon their return home, members of the United States Armed Forces who served bravely and faithfully during the Vietnam War were caught in the midst of a public debate about the involvement of America in that war. Whereas the National Vietnam War Veterans Day presents the opportunity to honor and thank our Vietnam veterans for their courageous military service and sacrifice. Now, therefore, it is proclaimed by the Mayor and City of Newberg and City Council on behalf of the people and the City of Newberg that we proclaim March 29th, 2024 as Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day to honor the courage and sacrifice of our local veterans who served in the Vietnam War. Can we give them a hand, please? Yeah. Once again, welcome home, gentlemen, and if you would, gather around the flag. We'd like to get some pictures. Thank you.
I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm a Newberg boy. I was raised here. I went through school all the way here. Took me many years to get through school, what have you. But this is my hometown. I spent 34 years in the military. and I've been spit at and everything else, but I was never thanked up till this time came up. And I do want to thank some people here. This man right here, our mayor, the Newberg, where you at? The fireman over there in the corner. We recently received, in the Nut Tree Mobile Home Park, received this, was it AD, what they call it, AED? And the people who live there, we really thank it, but it came from the city of Newberg. You did this for all of us old timers. You gotta be 55 to get in there, and nothing's ever happened. And you came out and gave us classes on how to work this thing to keep us alive when this thing's going. Newberg, I thank you. I really, really thank you. This is something that I never thought would ever happen. Thank you very much.
Now, the next item on our agenda, Mr. Worthy, is going to be recognition of 6 of our hometown heroes.
We're gathered here to hear a few words about the 6 individuals who saved Robert Bass's life. Ed Hatch, Sarah Larson, Jacqueline Hanley, Nicole Llewellyn, Sarah Picknell, Rachel Lane, to receive the honor of the City of Newberg's hometown. Ed Hatch was the first to arrive on the scene and was on a new route for his daily morning walk. He noticed it was shortly after they felt a pulse that the paramedics stabilized and transferred Bass to the hospital. Knowledge and CPR training can prove invaluable. This has, and it will happen again in our community, and having this knowledge can save a life. If you're looking at the council packet, please follow the link to the Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue website where you can find out more information about this equipment and these life-saving techniques. Also download the Pulse Point AED app to view a map of where the local AED locations are. And at this time, I would like to ask all of the hometown heroes to please be upstanding and be recognized by the community.
Well, in continuation with the Will Worthy show, it is time for our city manager's report.
Thank you, sir. So this evening, I thought instead of covering some of our more standard actions, amounts of pipe fixed or other things like that, that I would cover some key numbers about the city and actually explain a little bit more, perhaps for folks following along at home, where the money comes from that we collect and what we do with it. So let's see if the clicker wants to play ball tonight. First, let's review a few facts and numbers. Newberg, as you all know, is a gem located in the Willamette Valley among some of the best farmland in the world with a very mild climate. And to cite an old Scottish expression, it's a piece of God's eye and a smashing place to live. Incorporated in 1889, our tradition states that the town was named by its first postmaster, Sebastian Britscher, named for his old town of Newberg, Bavaria. By current estimates, the city is now 26,500 residents and has become a medium-sized community with an area just shy of 6 square miles. City staffing hovers just over 150 full-time equivalents, and it has been at that same level for many years. On the next few slides, I'm going to show you the overall budget, which you see every year. And on the revenue side, and don't worry, I'm not going to go into this in immense detail. On the revenue side, for this year, it was $133 million divided among services, beginning balances, property taxes, and miscellaneous other revenues. On the expenditures, contingencies and reserves was at 54 million, personnel 23, materials and services 18, internal services and payments 13, capital outlay for projects 18, and debt services 3.6 million. Now at this time, I just pulled the latest numbers. There is 7,459 housing units or businesses that support the city with rates, also called the municipal billing statement, and also called by some folks the water bill. Many of these are residential units. In addition, there is currently over 8,600 land divisions that pay property taxes to Yamhill County. And many of those are residential units too. Now that we know where the money comes from, I'd like to show you where the money goes. What does it buy? What are your property taxes and what are your rates finance? We're going to put this directly into human terms. And I've decided to use my own household as an example. As you know, I and my spouse live in Newberg. Currently, we pay $3,762 in property taxes per year. Of this amount, only $676.16 goes to the city of Newberg, approximately 20%. The rest goes to other agencies such as the school district, CPRD, and Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue, amongst others. As a point of reference, this is on a 1,700 square foot home, and it's a bit larger than what Alyssa and I wanted to buy, but we couldn't find a smaller house. In addition, here are the costs from our most recent monthly municipal billing statement. Water, $69.77, sewer, $70.59, stormwater, $15.63, public safety fee, $4.28, communications, $2.59, and transportation utility fee $5.40, to a grand total of $138.26, or $1,700 a year. So where does this $676 and $1,700 of rates go every year? What does my household and all of our households, what do we pay for? First, let's lock down one key concept about the city's finances. The city ledger is made of many funds, and by law, only the general fund can easily be used for any purpose. One way to think about this with clarity is to imagine the rates money and the property tax money as each funding a separate part of the operation for the good work of the city. For clarity, the rates money can only be used for the purposes set forth in the rates bill. As an example, sewer money can only be used for wastewater purposes. The following data points come from the 23-24 budget and can help illustrate a bit more. The $676.16 paid by the worthy household to the city by the way of ledger number 0100310000, look it up in the budget, folks. That is how the money enters the general fund. The general fund gets approximately 6.4 million from this source, and that's about a third of the total money that comes into the general fund. There are other major sources of revenue, such as franchise fees, state pass-through funds like liquor taxes, transient lodging taxes, and traffic fines. And there are also many smaller income sources that add together to make up about 20 million. How is the money spent? The general government, which is the council and legislative processes, is $281,000, and that means that the worthy household gets its legislative services for $10 a year. The courts is to keep our town safe and law-abiding, $432,000, $1,547 a year. The police has administration, patrol services, investigations, support services, compliance, and the reserve program to a total of $9.5 million, or $341 per year for the worthy household, less than $1 a day for a 2-minute response time for one of the safest communities that you could possibly live in. Library services, $2.3 million. Only $83 a year for the best library in Oregon. Planning services, for all of that design, figuring out all of those lot lines and building inspections to make sure structures are erected lawfully and safely, $1.6 million, or $57 a year for the worthies. And debt services, based on the debts we're carrying there, $372,000, $13.32. Now, before we move on to the rates part of this presentation, as we saw on the municipal billing statement, we pay a communications fee of $2.59 per month. To save residents a little bit of money, once we can get the communications debt paid off, and we're aiming to do it in 2026, we plan on permanently removing the communication line item from the bill, an average annual savings of $31. What headwinds face the general fund? We are currently saving up for new Motorola radios, mobile desktops and hardware related to infrastructure that powers our dispatch center. Revenue, while not abundant, is on track to cover these replacements and this will be covered more in the budget process, of course. We are concerned about the public employees retirement system costs, as we expect to see a hike in those in 2027. Now, let's go to the other side of the house, so to speak, and have a look at the rates. What do the Worthies rates pay for? First, let's look at the non-public works line items. We already talked about the communications fee due to be retired in 2026, and August is the goal for that. And we're lucky that we have a debt we can retire early to afford to remove that fee from the municipal billing statement. And no other city in Oregon is talking about removing a bill from the municipal billing statement. We also collect a public safety fee of $4.28 to supplement the number of officers that property taxes alone can't afford to pay for. This additional revenue adds 3 police officer positions and some supporting services in dispatch. The Worthies are glad to pay $35.66 to help raise this $846,000 to fund these officers in Fund 16. Without this revenue, of course, a reduction in force would need to occur unless a substantial new and permanent revenue source could be found to replace that money. Staff are advocating for continuing the path of debt reduction after the communication tower debt is retired. And we'll get into that more when we get to the sewer line item. The transportation utility fee. Annually, the Worthy household pays 64.80 cents to this fee. The fee was added because state gasoline revenue is not remotely keeping up with the need to do road repairs. Tough passes to the street fund 02. It is restricted and can only be used for street repairs. The Tough cannot be removed from the municipal billing statement without either abandoning many street repairs or adding a new stable revenue source. Currently, that would have to be greater than $1 million per year. In a normal year, Tough pays for 1/3 to a half of all road repairs, and over $2 million in repairs are planned for next fiscal year. And now on to the last 3 charges. The last 3 charges all pay for staff and materials that reside within public works. These efforts are the ones you see me talking about every month when I'm talking about the public works section of the city manager report. Public works maintenance staff and engineering staff can be thought of as generalists. They are paid across all of the rates, typically by ratio of the amount of time that they spend on each type of work. As an example, a public works staff member might have 1/3 of their salary paid by the water rate, depending on the type of work they do. These rates also pay to make water and to treat sewage. They pay to fix and maintain the pipe system like stormwater lines, and there is never enough funds to keep the system in good repair. You can see this based upon the millions of dollars in water-related capital improvement projects that we are working on right now. And property taxes do not pay for these things. Now, one of these rates is severely debt burdened, and that rate could be lower if that debt was retired. I'll get onto that in just a minute. Water rates, Fund 7. The Worthy household pays about $477.24 per year on its water rate. This flows into Fund 7 by way of 07000348,000, a user fee line item. This pays for planning, design, inspection, and management of the capital system for potable and non-potable water, the distribution pipes, plumbing, treatment, well field, and storage systems necessary to operate and maintain the city's water system. And remember, many of these costs just doubled in the last 3 years. We have learned that we need to find an additional $25 million or more in capital revenue to add water production capacity. This must occur before the 2032 timeframe, when we start to run out of generating capacity. At the moment, this rate has a portion set aside of approximately 20% over the next 7 to 8 years to help raise some revenue for this new system. However, I promise you, the city is committed to trying to find federal grants to achieve this goal, and failing that, to look at bonds for the same effect. But as you know, the price of water capacity just doubled. If the city was able to fund additional capacity by way of a federal grant or bonds, this would take pressure off of this rate. Stormwater, Fund 17. The stormwater rate of $187.56 is paid annually by the Worthies and is used to maintain the system that stops flooding from happening all over the city. This flows into 17,000,348,000 user fees. The city operates and maintains 429,000 lineal feet of stormwater piping, 112,000 lineal feet of roadside ditches, 3,528 inlets, 1,020 storm drain manholes, and 122 outfalls. Next slide.
Yeah.
Notably, the revenue from this rate raises only 2.5 million per year, and therefore any sudden new expenses, even at the $750,000 level, for example, would need to either see a substantial rate hike or cut flood control capital projects. For example, we are planning to start work on a project at OR 240 railroad tracks near Franklin Street to combat repeated flooding that has happened in that area because of a crushed pipe. And I wouldn't like to have to cancel that project because people get flooded. New slide, please. Sewer. The Worthy household pays approximately $850 per year to support the sewer system, and it flows into 06-0000-348-000 user fees. Sewer rates funds enter the wastewater fund 06. They pay for planning, design, inspection, and management of capital improvement projects connected to our sewers. They also cover operating and maintaining the city's wastewater treatment plant and wastewater pump stations. That's 465,000 gravity linear feet and 29,000 forced feet. That's 1,777 manholes and 1,111 cleanouts throughout the city. New slide. Earlier in the presentation, I stated that one of our rates was higher as it is debt burdened. I was referring to the sewer rate. This is due to construction on the water plant starting from 1986, with a major upgrade happening in 2016. There are 2 DEQ debts, and those are listed in the budget that relate to sewer funds. And you can see the numbers there. The first couple is principal, and the second 2 are interest, and that's an annual number. New slide, please. Now, this is a key thing. About 1/3, or $280 of the Worthy's annual sewer bill is made up of this debt. Staff recommends that to control this rate and maybe even see a slight reduction, we should focus on getting rid of this debt early to reduce this largest rate bill. Logically, after the communication line item is paid off, we should focus on trying to retire this debt early for a positive effect on our rates. When could this possibly happen? The debt would naturally retire in 2035-36, And staff have suggested that the best course of action would be to try to retire the debt early, perhaps as early as 2031. I know that's long-term thinking, folks, but it's not that far away. New slide, please. So that's a rundown on some of the key numbers that impact our town and a snapshot on where the money goes to through the lens of just one Newberg family. Any questions?
Thank you, Will. All right, next we have public comments. First I have is Jesse Cat.
Mayor, City Council. I just wanted to come here and thank you all for the amazing work that you've all been doing here. I am particularly here to talk about the tree removal. I was here when it was announced and been through several of the sessions and presentations on it. No problem. And I understand there are a number of folks who are opposed to the removal. I am familiar with the tree. I bought a house over there near Memorial Park, was married at the gazebo underneath the tree, so. It is a pity that it has to go, but I think the city's done due diligence. Looking at all the options, and I honestly, I think we vote for you guys to make these hard decisions, even though it's not going to make everyone happy. So I commend you for doing that, and I just want to let you know that you do have support out here. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Next we have Mary Jo Hernandez and Therese Bach.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sherry Spock. Thanks for hearing us. I guess not that you have a choice, but I appreciate your attention. And so I sent in a written version of my comment, but wanted to be here to just kind of help make some of the points hopefully come to life a little bit more. So I talked a lot about the economic, ecological, and psychological benefits of having mature trees in our neighborhoods and how we can't actually get those kind of trees back in our lifetimes. And so it's important to protect the ones that we can. And I totally understand that sometimes trees have to be removed. So I live just a few blocks away over by Edwards, and a big tree across from my house had to be cut down a couple years ago because it was, a big limb fell down on the edge of my neighbor's roof and was, it was diseased. And so that was really sad that that tree had to be cut down, but it's obviously a need. And but that changed the neighborhood significantly. There was much less shade. When I look out my window, it looks totally different. The heat in the summer is much higher and just completely changes the feel of the neighborhood. So I know from experience that removing these trees, even when we have to, is unfortunate. So if we can find ways to not have to remove such trees, I think that's much better. And I recognize that you all probably agree with that, but just to keep reminding ourselves of the importance of these trees. So we have this kind of small committed group of volunteers that are really trying to figure out what's going on with this tree removal project of the trees near Memorial Park and the gazebo and the rhododendrons. And we've been talking to lots of different people and really trying to figure things out. And there are so many things that are still unclear. And so I think that's the main thing that we want to communicate, is that we've been working really hard to figure this out, and none of it is clear yet. So it'd be really helpful if you could give us some information that would explain why this tree has to be removed, why now, why has it been placed before other projects? It seems like this wasn't a priority on the storm drain project plan from 2021. And so why does it need to be removed now? What other plans have been suggested and rejected and why. So we recognize there may be plans out there that we haven't seen. There may be cost estimates that we haven't seen. There may be alternative plans that we haven't seen. So it'd be nice to be able to just see the plans that are out there. If there's an engineering plan that or a cost estimate, we've been told different amounts of money that this will take at different times. So just transparency about that. What plans are there? What are the ones that have been rejected and why? What are the cost estimates? Just a bunch of things about this project aren't adding up. Even on the frequently asked questions on the website, it says that the gazebo is going to be removed because of dry rot, but we've also been told that it is not, there's no dry rot. So, and just a whole bunch of little things like that and big things that aren't adding up and that we're being told different things by different people at different times. So really getting a clear description of what is going on so that we can understand, okay, yes, this does need to be removed, or hey, we could come up with other solutions that would be better for the neighborhood. We also have been looking into the possibility of grants that we could apply for and help the city with. And so there are a lot of grants that are available for shade and for climate reasons and for neighborhood livability. A lot of community forestry grants. So there's things out there, there's ways that we could solve this if we had a little more time to work on it together. So I'll leave it at that, asking for time and the ability to have conversations with the public and share what the plans are so that we can understand.
Okay, thank you all for listening to me too. My name is Mary Jo Hernandez. And I'm here just to talk a little bit more since the last time we were here. I know that everybody wants the best for the city. I mean, obviously, that's very clear. But what we're asking is, can we work together for creative solutions? How can we all work together? How can we help you? For one thing, we've been, racking our brains. What can we do to help? Since obviously the city needs more money to do some of these projects. And we don't want you to have to do a partial job when a much better job could be done. And it's just a matter of not a lot of money. But we haven't found the details that we need to be able to pursue the grant requests because we need facts. And also we looked and we found that all the improvements, including the stormwater rerouting, is a listed project included in the tax increment financing of South Blaine Street. So if y'all don't know that, it's already paid for. It's already, the money's there. All you gotta do is look. So that's like so exciting. I mean, like so exciting. So anyway, we're like totally pleased to have found that. And so basically, we're asking for a moratorium on cutting down the tree until everybody, we can have a chance to see what's best for the city, because we know that cutting down a tree and doing a patch work to that part of the wastewater system is not what you all really want to do. That you all really want to save the tree and really want to, if the tree is not diseased and it doesn't need to come down and it's already been, the money's already there to reroute the other pipes around it, then maybe we all really actually agree. So we're excited about that. So anyway, we want to have a little bit more time. We ask that you put off the execution of the tree probably until 2025, so that we can look into the grants because they aren't instantaneous. If we need more beyond the tax increment financing, and also that we can see the plans if we've had a chance to get any of this specific proposal. But if we haven't, we need an independent engineering assessment to look at how feasible this is versus other option of rerouting, a little bit, maybe half a block away from there. And also estimates of the cost for tree cutting and patching up this little local area versus the whole project. But all of this might be just moot, if we already have the funding. But at the very least, we have to have the costs that these two options would that would be involved for us to ask for grants. So we don't yet to know how much we're asking for. We don't even know. You know, we don't even have any numbers of how much anything costs. So without that, we can't even help you. So basically, we would also request a public forum or some kind of public event to discuss the project, because so many things are not really clear and the public hasn't had a chance to get the answers they need. We've submitted 14 pages of questions that haven't been able to be answered. So those are just a few of the reasons why we need help. We also are concerned about the proposed removal of a structurally sound gazebo that's actually strong enough to be lifted by a crane for removal and relocation. But how can we be doing this when we're celebrating Veterans Day? It's hard for us we don't feel good about that, but we know you don't either, probably. So this is just another way that we don't want the city to have to make the choices that it's having to make because of money. So we just want you to know that we're on your side and we want to try to help as much as we can. But we ask also that you would put this on the next agenda so we can all talk about Memorial Park plans. Thank you.
And finally, we have Steve and Dawn. Paul, you want to go up together? Ladies first. All right, Dawn.
Okay, thank you for the chance to speak this evening. I'm here to talk about cutting down trees. The first thing I'd like to point out is that no one wants to cut down these trees. I don't want to cut them down. You don't want to cut them down. The Sustainable Solutions Group does not want to cut them down. So we all agree. It's unfortunate that this tree, native to the Northern California coast, was brought here planted and is damaging our city's infrastructure. No one wants that to happen. Our city leaders have a job to do, and they have to make tough decisions. They also have a fiscal responsibility to all taxpayers in Newberg. This is one of those times. No one wants people's basements to flood. No one wants to cause more damage to our city infrastructure. So this is another thing we can all agree on. The city leaders have made every responsible effort to keep the trees, but unfortunately the tree brought from over 300 miles from its native habitat and planted here has to be cut down. If any one of us had a tree growing right next to our house and it started damaging our foundation, we would have to make a tough decision similar to this one. And you all know what you'd have to do. You'd have to cut the tree down too. It again sounds like we all agree. That's why it's sad that we have a group of people trying to divide us on this issue we very much agree upon. And at this point, it's political grandstanding. No one wants to cut down trees, but when it's the only reasonable option we have, and it doesn't make it any better on anyone to use every tool you have to disrupt the inevitable and make it harder on the people making the decision that when broken down and made simple, we all still agree on. I want to thank our city leaders for being so accommodating to everyone that had thoughts on this issue, and I appreciate how they handled everyone's concerns with thoughtfulness and consideration. You've taken a hard circumstance and handled it with all of Newberg in mind. Thank you.
And Steve.
Thank you for having us tonight. Tonight, I've got a handful of items. I want to thank each and every one of you for what you've been doing throughout your time serving as the new mayor and the new city council. First, before that, I want to echo what Dawn just said. She happens to be my wife. I do agree with her. And for someone like myself that's lived here for 10 years and is a transplant, I'm not on social media. The only place you'll find Steve Paulson is on LinkedIn. So I'm not privy to all of the things, banter and negativity that gets spewed, but I'm very much aware from my friends and my family members that do pay attention to those things and then share these things with me. And to see a group like y'all that are led by the greatest mayor I've ever seen in my time on planet Earth, and his group, y'all have been looking out for the greater good of the citizens of our town, and I can't say thank you enough on behalf of our citizens. You've taken what was disorderly, in my opinion, and you put things back, you've restored order in so many different aspects. A few examples, in my opinion, and many of those that are in my circle, you lead with integrity, not with negativity and with evil agendas, in my opinion. Monthly prayers held downtown. Thank God he is risen. We just celebrated Easter, the birth, death, and resurrection of Jesus. Bill has led a group of people that everyone's welcome there to pray for our community. I think everybody can agree on that. That's a positive thing. Thank you for that. I believe y'all have been available and transparent. And I've always said, being a former athlete and sports, I love sports, the best kind of ability is availability. And I believe you all are available to the people, anyone who wants to call and ask you questions or talk to you. From everybody I've talked to, and myself included, Will and everybody else. I mean, someone asked me the other day randomly, what do you think of Will Worthy? I go, well, I do love golf. I know the birthplace of golf is Scotland, but from what I've seen, he's a good man, stand-up character. Thank you. Going on, continuing on, you put the citizens first. We talked about that. And it's something that's really near and dear to my heart. Working for a major corporation like I do and have been in corporate America since graduating from college at Oregon State, you include everyone. I believe you don't just celebrate things and push things that are exclusive to certain types of people with certain beliefs. I believe the city council, this mayor led by our mayor and his team, works hard to include all of us and make us all feel welcome and special in our own individual unique ways. Thank you for that. Finally, I believe the vibe has changed here to a positive vibe. And what I mean by that, again, talking to people, asking people, going out, knocking on doors, helping, and serving. I can tell you people are not doing this for your health or for money. You're doing this out of the goodness of your hearts. And for that, I say thank you. Keep up the great job, and we do appreciate every single one of you and what you're doing. Thank you.
All right, I will close public comment. And that, we get another presentation from Newberg.
I probably should have brought a few float lozenges this evening, but here we go. So in 2023, Mayor Bill Rusacker requested that the military assistance allotment be updated. And he mentioned it to me, but it was just after we had finished designing the rates package for the previous year, so we couldn't act then and there. The city manager has kept track of this request and is now bringing this before council to resolve. The rate review committee in the past has planned and set aside some allotments for various sorts of assistance, and the original resolution to adopt the municipal services assistance for utility billing has been superseded many times to allow for increasing assistance for military and low-income families. It is now the desire of the mayor to increase this allocation for military assistance to reflect a realistic figure that will provide more aid for those who need it. Currently, the assistance is $25 per month for the 12 months. If the assistance is increased to $6,000, it would allow for 20 applicants to receive the military assistance discount each fiscal year. And currently we have a budget that can cover 12 individuals. The fiscal impact will be $2,400, and this falls in line with Council Goal 6 to implement a careful and prudent fiscal policy and reduce some elements of the municipal billing statement where we can. You'll see that the recitals and other elements are in your packet, and staff recommends that the council resolve to increase the municipal utility bill services assistance program military assistance allocation from 3,600 to 6,000. That is the end of my staff remarks.
Thank you. Well, do you need a resolution on this? It's for informational, right?
It will be a resolution.
I caught eye contact with my colleague here, and yes, indeed, this would have to be a resolution.
Considering this, resolution 2024-3919, is there any comment?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lee.
I absolutely support this. I just wanted to clarify, conversation that I had with city manager Worthy earlier today around the allocated funding for different nonprofits to assist individuals for assistance with utilities. And I feel like it would be a great opportunity to potentially, because I think it is not fully utilized. Currently, I don't know if it needs a refresh to the nonprofits listed or extension to other nonprofits that are supporting individuals that could benefit from utility assistance. I guess saying to the public that I think it is underutilized, and so there is funding set aside already that is year over year in our budget, $23,000-ish, I think. And not utilized. So in addition to this veterans fund, so notes to anyone that's listening, there is money available for those in need, and now we need to inform nonprofits somehow. Better, I'm thinking, Love Inc. There's a whole bunch of nonprofits that support this work, so Will, you're raising your hand.
Well,
The points of the honourable councillor are well made, and staff will ensure that the word gets out to all of our local non-profits.
If we're not using it, why are we raising it? No. I'm fine raising it, but it's fun.
Well, we have our.
Good. Always.
So actually, the military assistance portion is fully utilised every year. It's the other segment which, yes, which we could do more to let people know about. Oh, did they understand?
Yes. Oh, I bet you got it.
I stand corrected. I've just heard that we did spend all of the non-profit allocation this year. Excellent. And I'll still let them know anyway.
Hi. So is this an annual, you have to reapply, the same people would have to reapply every year?
For the record, that was a yes.
But we could still notify nonprofits, because I noticed that it says nonprofit voucher, so it could be extended to any nonprofit to submit for assistance for utility support, correct? Okay.
Indeed, and I will make sure that occurs. Peggy?
I have a question, like, it's probably gonna be. You tell me, but, do these people apply to the nonprofits for this, or do they apply to the city? And why do they not apply directly to the city? I understand nonprofits, being able to spread the word that, hey, this is here, but that's it.
So this is actually on an individual basis, but frequently nonprofits will refer people to the program. And in the case of the military one, we absolutely have individuals that can apply on their own behalf, and that's how it works.
I didn't hear about because I still don't understand. I'm still not, it's not clear to me why regular citizens who use the larger fund don't apply directly to the city.
They do. They do.
Oh, thanks.
No, they'll be referred to the program by nonprofits, but that's in the way of a helping hand or an assist.
anybody like to make a motion?
Yes, I move that we approve resolution 20,
Is it 2024-39-13?
19.
19.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve resolution 2024-39-19. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. The motion passes unanimously. Now, yeah, our next presentation is gonna be on the Fall Valley Fire.
Oh, no problem.
Presentation.
Yep, just a second.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Patrick Fail. I'm the Assistant Chief for 12th Valley Fire and Rescue. And especially after tonight, I'm proud to say that I've lived in Yandell County my entire life in Newberg for the last 20 years. The recognition of the veterans and the community responders that saved a life tonight is just exceptional, in my humble opinion. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Corinne Haney, in the back. She's one of the public affairs officers.
I'd like to start off tonight by speaking just a little bit on recent and upcoming community events that TVFNR has been lucky to partner with other area groups. And carrying on a community tradition, we worked in partnership with Chehalis Valley Parks and Rec to support this past weekend's Newberg Easter egg hunt at Jakewood Park. Staff and line personnel recently provided a well-received hands-on CPR training that you heard about tonight to the CHIP Veterans Group that meet weekly at the Nut Tree Mobile Estates. And if I could just speak a little bit on the chain of survival, why we have this opportunity. If you experience sudden cardiac arrest in 12th Valley service area, it's 310 square miles, 11 cities, and 4 counties. You have, if it's a witnessed arrest, like what we saw here, you have a 43% chance of fully neurologically intact survival. That is one of the highest rates in the nation, and it's with purpose. So the chain of survival is a really big focus on community hands-on with CPR, which you see here at the Nut Tree Mobile Estates. We've really focused on our middle schools as well as our high schools for those responders. But a major part of that chain of survival is our police partners. All the units within Newberg carry AEDs. They've been tremendous help. Chief, his troops absolutely are part of that chain of survival and get those AEDs there rapidly. We bring the advanced life support for that continuation of care to complete that chain of survival. So it's a community-wide partnership to make sure that we are saving lives. And we're really appreciative of all of our partners. We'll be hosting a Chehalis Valley Chamber AM greeting at Station 21 on Friday, April 19th, and we look forward to our annual involvement with the Old Bastard Festival. Next slide, please. Tonight I'm going to be covering a retrospective view of this past year and also some topics that are forward-leaning, taking us into the next year. We're going to watch a quick video on the year in review of 2023. I'm going to talk a little bit about January and our enactment of major emergency response operations during the January storm. Give an EMS update on local happenings, but also state happenings as well. We'll review a portion of the money that we're spending for our bond and a quick facts on measure 34332, which is our local option levy that you'll see on a ballot. Next slide, please.
Hi, my name is Eric Weiss. I'm the fire chief for Swan Valley Fire. It's a busy place. Here are just a few of the highlights from this year. Our paramedics, firefighters, and support staff that keep our communities As you can imagine, I'm extremely proud of the men and women that work for Wildlife Fire and Rescue. They are passionate and dedicated to serve you. As you saw, they have a tremendous impact on the community, and we are honored to serve.
Thank you. Good job. Next slide, please. There are times when the capacity of our organization is tested, and there are times when you learn how resilient and capable the fire district really is. The beginning of 2024 included a series of stress tests that challenged our capacity to manage multiple complex incidents happening simultaneously. Like you and many of our partners, the winter storm greatly impacted the fire district. Going into the storm, we already had one station closed due to discovery of mold, which was Station 20 here in Newberg, and we had to relocate multiple companies. And we were planning a memorial service for a fallen lieutenant to happen January 2nd. Those two challenges were being managed by two of TBFNR's 4 incident management teams, and then the storm hit. Next slide, please. During the 6-day period of winter weather, firefighters, paramedics responded to 2,300 calls for service in our area. The first day of the storm, call volumes tripled. We decided to enact major emergency operations mode to manage the significant increase in incidents and prioritize life-threatening 911 calls. Those 2,300 calls encompass just about every call type that we see, and the top 3 are listed there, but they include trees into houses, hundreds of burst pipes, assisting with water shutoff valves, gas leaks, fires, and of course, medical incidents that we normally respond to. While responding to these calls, our crews and staff face many of the same challenges as the communities. One of our fire stations experienced the burst pipe while they were out on their 26th run in a 24-hour period. They were relocated within hours, and due to the strength of our logistics team, they were back in that firehouse operating 3 days later. We experienced power outages and generator failures at multiple TBFNR facilities, and district vehicles and traction equipment broke down due to the duration of the incident. I'm proud to say our crews and staff and volunteers proved their resiliency and tenacity during those 6 days. The training of our organization has done for large scale incidents really did pay off. We learned a lot from 2020. If you remember, the entire state was basically on fire, and Chehalis Mountain was one of those areas. We were on that incident for multiple days. And we took valuable lessons from that. We didn't fall back on our laurels and say, well, that was just a one-off incident. We trained and trained and trained and trained, knowing that those type of incidents, those large-scale incidents, were going to happen in the future. And I'm just so proud as the assistant chief to say that we crushed January. And I can't say that even a year or 2 ago, we would have performed at the same high level. So I'm very proud of staff. Next slide, please. This is a snapshot of the performance and response data for the city of Newberg. This is just city of Newberg proper. We're going to start with the 2023 total incidents of 3,426. You look in the upper left hand under EMS. This is tracking for the majority of the fire district, with about 84% is EMS related calls. Next over is fires at 7.2%, and then remaining percentage is hazard service calls, good intent, false alarms, and others. If you look over at the heat map, red and orange is where the majority or a large portion of the call volume is occurring, especially the red areas and the bright orange. Those are generally long-term care facilities, and that tracks with the rest of our fire district. Moving down into hours a day, Newberg tracks just like almost everywhere that the majority of the calls are happening between mid-morning to late afternoon. Usually on day of the week, you can see an outlier in most communities. Newberg is pretty solid, around 15% to 13% consistently on day of the week. Normally I get to say a joke, like stay away from Newberg on Tuesday, but I can say that this time. Call volume has remained relatively steady, 2019 through 2023. We take a 5-year snapshot. We will see anomalies year to year, so 2023, you see a slight dip, but we can't really see a significant impact unless we look at a larger data set over a 5-year period of time. District-wide, we've seen a 17% increase in total call volume over the last 5 years, and we project that to continue. Next slide, please. For EMS, you may have seen medical transport and EMS in the news recently. I'd like to provide you an update on what we are seeing in the EMS system statewide and also locally. At the state level, the legislation recently passed House Bill 4081. This bill intends to modernize Oregon's emergency medical system. This was the only bill TBFNR endorsed, as we are hopeful it will provide consistency and transparency across the system throughout the state. Over the past year, we've seen improvements to the transport system within Washington County. And why does that impact you? The failing transport system that we saw in 21, 22, and 23 in Washington County was impacting your transport units in Yamaha County as part of leading into that Washington County. We've seen a tremendous improvement, and your units, your transport units, Medic 20, Rescue 20, Medic 21 are predominantly here the majority of the time for these citizens. Specific to TBFNR, an area of focus is high utilizers who rely on 911 system as a primary source of care. In 2023, we had 99 patients who called 911 10 times or more. That resulted in 1,508 total incidents, 841 hours of care, and hundreds of staff time in follow-up. These patients are ill and they struggle to access non-emergency resources for care. These patients are members of our community and are utilizers of the 911 system, and we have a duty to care for them. That is why we are working on a pilot, and I'm happy to say that today is the first day that CAR 20 is deployed to Newberg. It's a single resource unit that includes a community paramedic. These community paramedics will not only be knowledgeable in advanced life-saving care, but also trained on community resources such as mental health, food access, housing, and other social services that can support root medical issues that result in 911 activation. Our goal is to provide better care to these patients while also keeping heavy assets and critical fire and EMS resources available for critical calls. Next slide, please. In 2021, voters approved a $122 million bond to update and replace aging stations, purchase apparatus, and begin improvement to our training center on Tonquin Road. The passage of the bond did not increase the tax rate since we had old debt retiring. Many projects are still in the work, but I wanted to highlight one in particular. Next slide, please, which is training center. We run trainings and academies year round. Our existing administrative building and classrooms struggle to accommodate training staff, academy leaders, and recruits. We are investing bond dollars to develop a recruit village, as it would allow our recruits and training staff the ability to more effectively deliver critical skills, training our future responders need. We have been connecting with PGE to tour their new training center in Sherwood, as it has many of the elements we would require, and a team of training staff has toured the top training facilities in the nation to replicate portions of their programs. The recruit village will include classrooms, dirty and clean, and what I mean by that is a clean classroom is free of carcinogens. They would spend most of their time in there during their didactic training. There are times when they are in turnouts where they need to go into a dirty room for a quick tune-up and then go back out to the drill ground. So it accommodates that and it gives them a safe and healthy place to work. It'll have lockers, office space, and an eating area as well. We'll also be connected to an indoor training arena. With new heat exposure laws, an indoor space will allow us to conduct training during inclement weather without extensive overtime. Right now, with those laws and OSHA mandates, during certain temperatures, our firefighters that are trained, not actively on the line, but who are trained, have to stand down. And that significantly impacts those recruits while they're trained. Next slide, please. TDFNRs had operating levies in place since 2000 to supplement a permanent tax rate, which was frozen in 1997. TDFNR's current levy, which voters approved in 2019, is set to expire June of 2025. Our growing community and rising demand requires more firefighters and paramedics to maintain reliable emergency response. And what I mean by that is as our call volume has gone up, our units are on a call and another call is coming into that same service area. So what we need to do is add concentration to our service areas. Measure proposes a 5-year operating levy with a rate of 69 cents per thousand of assessed value. If passed, levy will retain existing first responders, 92 of them, and add 36 more. It will purchase specialized medical equipment such as cardiac monitors, defibrillators, and fund critical firefighting tools. It will purchase vehicles used to fight wildland fires, shuttle water, and transport patients. And since September, the feedback from the community has been largely positive. The community has expressed that they are pleased to hear that if the levy is successful, we would be unlikely to consider a rate increase for the next 10 years. To date, we have not seen any organized opposition. And that concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions in the pan.
I just want to say thank you. In my line of work, it's just always so refreshing when we get the opportunity to interact and interface with your team. And just super professional and really see the dignity of every person that they're serving. And it really goes a long way. And it's noted all the time by staff I work with. I'm so excited for the paramedic. The community paramedic, that's been a long time coming, and I know it's been out in the plans for TBNR for a while, and I'm just so excited to see that happen. And just plug for the Citizens Academy, because I got to do it last year, and truly one of like the best experiences of my life. It was so fun, and I got to be at Station 20, and it was incredible, and I just had a even more just admiration for all the work that you guys do. And I'm excited for the PD one coming up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So would you tell us a little more about the paramedic? Is that going to be a permanent position every day or as an operator?
Yeah, it essentially is gonna work 4 days a week, and we know where these calls are happening in peak volumes when they're happening. So they're positioned to work those days for those peak volume times. Of course, we want to get things to 24/7 coverage, but like most of our programs, we have to step into them. So they already have a caseload. They started on the caseload today in the city of Newberg, started interacting with those patients that are high 911 utilizers. And really what we hope for is that they're so effective, they put themselves out of business. We've seen that happen around the nation. We hope.
Molly?
Or they're so effective that you can afford to make them 24/7, because it's way less expensive than a 911 call.
It's true.
The other thing I wanted to put in a plug for the fund, it's the first price increase in 10 years. That's pretty good.
So, yeah, our local option.
Yeah. Local.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this point, do any of the counselors have anything that they want to bring up? Well, then I'm happy to say that I declare this meeting adjourned.